I certainly can't believe it, guys, that this is actually the 7th video that we're making where we're trying to unpack the news, helping people. The whole idea behind these videos that we're making is to try to support people to understand the truth, because guys, we are being lied to. Going all the way back to, I think it was in 2013, Barack Obama actually signed an executive order making it legal for the mainstream media to actually use propaganda against the American people. And oh boy, have they been taking full advantage of that since then, especially around COVID. And then, guys, as you know, there has been massive, absolutely massive censorship as far as social media is concerned. I mean, at the moment, I'm actually blocked. I can't even comment on Facebook anymore. So the important thing, guys, is to understand, or should I rather say understand, is to understand that everything is on track. The first thing I want to share with you is that all the BRICS countries are in the process of asset backing their currencies. Russia has already gold backed the ruble. China has gold backed the yuan. South Africa is in the process of gold backing our currency. I mean, they've set aside that spiritual Wonder Boy fund, which has 186,000 tons of gold in it. That's the gold that is going to asset back our currencies. And then, of course, the BRICS groups of countries are also working very, very hard at the moment to develop a mutual currency, or should we rather say a combined currency that'll actually be competition to the petrodollar. But what's even more fantastic, guys, is Putin has finally announced that they've got everything in place now. They've got a system, a quantum financial system, which is now in competition to SWIFT. So they have an international system for doing international cross-border transfers. The yuan is, at least the ruble is gold backed, the yuan is gold backed, the rand is about to be gold backed. The other BRICS countries, Brazil, India, are also in the process of gold backing their currencies. What that really means, guys, is the petrodollar is going to absolutely implode very soon, which is, guys, a very scary thought, because there are definitely going to be ramifications. So if I can make a recommendation, it's not going to be a long, drawn out fiasco, because that's what it kind of is. It's going to feel like but unfortunately, as I said in my previous videos, humanity has to experience. It has to be experiential. So unfortunately, guys, there is going to be a period where there may even be a period where the shelves in the stores might be empty. So if you can stock up on a little bit of dry food, because it looks like there's going to be a switch. So this is what I see happening in the not too distant future. We're definitely going to be switching from the current criminal internet, which is called Mockingbird. We're going to be switching over to the new internet, which is going to be driven, and it's all about humanity, and it's all about making sure that we are sovereign beings. And the new internet is going to be called Odin. The switch off and the switch on could take anything between 3 and 10 days, guys. So remember, during that period when there's no internet, that means there's going to be no banking available. So your credit cards, etc., aren't going to work. So get yourself, I always say, rather have and not need than need and not have. So I would suggest get at least a week's cash. So whatever you think you might need to spend cash on for bread and milk and fruit and whatever your weekly expenses are, try to have enough cash available on you to have at least, let's say, 10 days worth of cash, so that you can keep yourself going. The next thing to consider, guys, is clean water. Remember, when electricity gets switched off, one of the first things that happens, guys, is the water gets pumped up into towers, and then the water then gravity feeds into our homes. So when the electricity is off for a prolonged period, which is very likely, guys, because remember, there's also very, very strong torque, and it might not happen now. This might happen in a phased period, but like I say, guys, rather have and not need than need and not have. So the electricity is going to be switched off at some point, where we're going to switch over from this current coal, nuclear, even wind, solar, water, etc., electricity generation. We're going to move over to way better, way cleaner forms of energy, which is actually Tesla-free energy. Guys, I'm going to post a little piece in the video of a guy who's actually built one of these machines, which is, it's not a massive machine, but it generates a massive amount of free energy. What it basically does is it extracts those vacuum fluctuations or ether or consciousness itself from what we call empty space and turns it into, or should I rather say, extracts that infinite energy. And that's the energy. That's the Tesla energy that we're going to be using. So when that switchover happens, guys, there's going to be a period of no electricity. So if you can have some sort of a system where if you can get a generator, that's first prize. But if you can't get a generator, at least have some sort of a UPS or some sort of a electrical backup system, guys, that'll help you. You can charge phones or iPads or computers or something. It's going to be, like I said, the longest, and this would be worst case scenario, would be 10 days, but it's more likely that it's probably only going to be about 3 days. So plan for about 3 days. But remember, during those 3 days, guys, there's going to be no electricity, which means no refrigeration. So if you're banking on your food being kept safe, or in other words, kept frozen, and you've got no electricity, guys, be careful. So that's why I'm saying, please make sure that you've got enough cash for 10 days to kind of cover your daily expenses, because you're not going to be able to use credit cards. You're not going to be able to draw money out of the bank. But also make sure you've got enough water for at least 10 days, good, clean drinking water for 10 days. Have some sort of water, maybe fill your bath so you've got water to flush toilets. If you've got a swimming pool, that's fantastic. But guys, also make sure that you've got enough dry food. Remember, like I said, your refrigeration may not work. So don't bank on the fact that you're going to have a freezer, that you're going to have refrigeration, etc. That may not be. Please also make sure, guys, that you're aware and, put up solar, because, thieves and things are also going to be on the prowl. So maybe get yourself 1 or 2 solar lights that are going to charge and then stay on all night. We've got 4 of them around our property, which, guys, it's just, like I say, rather have and not need than need and not have. So things are really, really hotting up, guys. But like I said, unfortunately, this experience has got to be experiential. So there is going to be a period where the shelves may be empty. There is going to be a period where we're going to be without internet. There is certainly going to be a period where we're going to be without electricity. So guys, prepare. Be ready for it, because the stuff that I'm seeing, like I said, the BRICS countries have asset-backed their currencies. But what's even more positive than that is Putin has now officially announced that he wants and needs, he doesn't want to and doesn't need to use the US dollar ever again. That is massive, because think about what Russia's now going to do. Russia obviously has been holding a massive amount of US dollars. They've had to hold a trade surplus with the USA, so that anything they wanted to buy from the USA, in fact, anything they wanted to buy, oil, gold, tin, steel, anything they wanted to buy, they had to have a trade surplus with the USA so they could pay in that ridiculous petrodollar. Now, the ruble is independent. The ruble is now gold back. And Russia's saying, if you want our gas, if you want our oil, if you want anything from Russia, guys, you better pay us in the ruble. We are now completely independent of the petrodollar. But that also means that Russia's now going to dump a massive amount of dollars. The dollar is artificially propped up at the moment because it's the currency of last resort, or what they call the reserve currency, where all assets are traded within that, right? The dollar is artificially elevated, as well as the white hats who are supporting the dollar to be so strong. Why? Well, they wanted to get the euro, the pound, and the dollar almost 1-to-1 so that they could do the GCR, which they've already done, I believe, right? That is fantastic news. The other thing, guys, is this is massive. Remember in 1971, Nixon took the USA off the gold standard, as he said at the time, for 2 weeks, just to stabilize the dollar, because the dollar was under attack, right? We're 52 years later, and we still haven't returned to the gold standard. How is this bit of news? The US Congress has introduced a bill. They call it the gold standard bill, but it's actually asset backing, a gold backing bill, because of inflation. So what they're looking to do, guys, and remember, gold is a very safe haven. Whenever inflation and things start to go out of control, they're now looking at gold backing the US dollar. This is massive. Like I said to you, because the BRICS countries have all now, or they're in the process of asset backing their currencies, and they're busy making a currency which is going to be in competition to the petrodollar, the US is now forced, just like the other countries, guys, all the countries around the world are now being forced to all asset back their currencies, because Russia's not going to accept air for oil. they want gold for oil. And South Africa and every country that sells raw materials is now saying, guys, we're no longer accepting your ridiculous fiat currency that's printed out of thin air or just backed by debt. We now want real currency backed by real assets. In other words, we're moving back to a barter type economy where we're going to give you oil, but you're going to give us gold in exchange. We're not going to give you oil and you just give us bits of pieces of paper that are backed by debt and are meaningless. These are so massive, guys. The next thing is the silver inventories that have been held. So generally what they do is they keep in London, they keep about 1 billion ounces as a reserve, just in case, to cover fluctuations in the silver market. Well, guys, that reserve has been plummeting. So in 2021, it plummeted by about 300 million ounces. And now in 2022, it's plunged by about another 500 million ounces. So we're now sitting at a point where we've got just under 600 million ounces of that billion ounces. But here's where the real challenge comes in, or should I rather say the absolutely amazing thing for those of us who've invested into silver comes, is most of that silver, most of that just under 600,000 ounces of silver is already allocated to all the silver certificates that have been issued by Citibank and Deutsche Bank, etc. So there is literally almost no surplus silver left. And there is a massive demand. So the demand for silver is skyrocketing. People are wanting to invest into silver. Guys, the market is going to explode. If you do have, and guys, I just got to tell you here, please remember, I'm not a financial advisor, so go do your own research. But all the markers out there are pointing towards a dramatic increase in the silver price very soon. At the moment, guys, silver is ridiculously undervalued. So if there ever was a good time to buy silver, it's right now, guys. The other thing, although Biden went with his hat in hand and he went begging for oil from the OPEC countries, from Saudi Arabia specifically, guys, OPEC has not increased production, they've decreased production. So what that physically means is the USA, to try with the elections, the midterm elections, which I don't believe are going to go ahead, midterm elections coming up, they're trying to prove that they're doing a good job. So what are they doing? They're using the national reserve. Guys, that oil that's in reserve is in case of a war, etc. Biden has been consuming that oil at such a rate to maintain the oil price, because if he wasn't doing that, the oil price would be way, way higher. Inflation would be way, way higher. So once that oil runs out, and they reckon that oil is going to run out latest by the end of the year, well, something massive is going to happen before then, guys, because remember, by the 14th of October, the USA has got to pay their bills. And I don't believe they have the money. Or even if they do have the money they have is fiat currency. China, Russia, loads of countries around the world are saying, whoa, guys, we don't want that fiat currency anymore. We want asset-backed currency. So, guys, there is going to be a massive shift very, very soon. Something has got to go really, really soon. The next thing, guys, that's massive is, how about the United Arab Emirates president visiting Vladimir Putin? That is so massive. Guys, do you understand that these people were all terrified of the US? Anyone who stepped out of line, we can think of a couple, right? Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Syria, etc. Any countries that stepped out of line and didn't want to continue using the petrodollar and toe the line and obey the rules of the cabal, guys, they were literally attacked by the USA and their countries were decimated. Think about this now. When you think about Saudi Arabia getting into bed with BRICS, Saudi Arabia meeting up with Vladimir Putin, the UAE now meeting with Putin, discussing how they can actually form a combined collective so that the oil price, in fact, they're almost inviting Russia to join OPEC. That is so massive, guys. Do you see now that everything is on track? When you start looking out into the marketplace and you just open your eyes, and that's what I really want. That's why I'm trying to do this this video a little bit differently is I want you to be able to start looking out into what's going on out there and to start seeing the truth. Not what the propaganda mainstream media wants you to see, but rather what's really going on. The other thing that's really amazing, guys, is Russia has now put down the hammer. They're no longer just doing surgical strikes to remove the biolabs and traffic children, etc. in Ukraine. Well, since they attacked the bridge, right, that bridge between Crimea and Russia and Ukraine, since they attacked that bridge, Russia has said, hold on a second, you guys are now picking up the ante. They used real, like, you know how you would normally be in a war where you would attack. Isn't it crazy? Russia has been, I think it's since March that the war in the Ukraine has been going on. Yet they've still had all of their communications up. They've still had electricity in all the cities. They've still had water. Does that sound like a dictator that is arriving in a country and he's there to overthrow the country? Or does that sound like somebody who's coming and liberating a people? That is exactly how Putin has been conducting the war till now. But now that Zelensky has upped the ante and actually blown up a terrorist bomb in Russia, Russia's now said, now this needs to end. So I believe that now that this has really started escalating, I think the Ukraine war will be over pretty soon. The next thing that's also something that we need to be aware of, guys, is there's still Taiwan. So remember, the China-Taiwan situation is quite complex because remember, just like in every country, in the USA, we've got the white hats, kind of, let's call it the Donald Trump camp. And then we've got the deep state, let's call that the Biden camp. So in every single country, we've kind of got both. In China, it's no different. We've got the CCP, which is pretty much the deep state. And then we've got the white dragons. And very strange, guys. You really got, if you dig and look, you'll realize that Xi Jinping, Putin, Modi, the leader of North Korea, all of these countries are actually working together. The thing that might really confuse a lot of people is Donald Trump will be coming back pretty soon. In fact, SCOTUS has already overturned the 2020 presidential election. There's just, like I said, there's just a couple of things that has to happen. The war in the Ukraine has to wind down. Taiwan has to happen because that can't happen under President Trump's watch, right? So that's all got to happen under Biden's watch. So although it's been overturned, there's still a couple of things that basically needs to happen. So what I see happening in Taiwan is it's probably going to be a very short battle because just like in China, in Taiwan, there's deep state and there's white hats, okay, or should I say white dragons rather. So there's both good, evil and good in both Taiwan and China. But unfortunately, guys, just like in Ukraine, where they've had these biolabs, they've had these child trafficking dens, etc., Taiwan unfortunately has a similar challenge. So China does have to go in, the People's Liberation Army, not the CCP, guys. The People's Liberation Army needs to go in. I believe that they will be able to go into Taiwan and probably in less than 48 hours. They'll be able to solve that challenge. And that's when they'll only then be able to start cleaning up the DUMBs. DUMBs stands for Deep Underground Military Bases, guys. That's where they've been keeping the children, etc., that they've been trafficking. But I don't want to go into that in too much detail. In a couple of videos' time, guys, I think it will be time. And I'll share with you the real traumatic reason, guys. The whole reason that I've done everything that I've done, that I've taken the risk that I've taken, that I've made these videos. I've spent, or should I rather say invested this much time into researching, etc., is because of what's been done to our children. But I'm not going to go down that road yet. I just want you to start thinking about it. And maybe, guys, like I said, I've got those 14 alternate search engines, those non-Google search engines. If you're interested and you want to go and find out a little bit more information about what's been done and what's been perpetrated on our children for a very, very, very long time, use those search engines and prepare yourself, guys. You're going to be shocked. It's not a pretty picture at all, right? The other thing, guys, unbelievably, the Malaysian Prime Minister has dissolved Parliament and calls for early elections. These are all beautiful indicators that the light is winning, or should I rather say the light has won. And now, guys, it's just a mopping up operation. We are now kind of in the last throes of these cornered animals are doing their last little bits. They're trying every little thing that they can try. The leadership, the very top, has been destroyed. But there's still, unfortunately, the way that these covens work is they operate independently of each other. And as there's still some covens that are still operating, guys, we're now having to work down. And this is where things are probably going to become public very soon, where we're actually going to see the lower echelons, etc., will start to get arrested, etc. Independent researchers, guys, have a working Tesla free energy device. In the video, I'll actually put pictures. I've got a little video that actually demonstrates how it works. It's phenomenal technology, right? And then, of course, guys, we wanted to quickly, I'm just going to talk about that stolen presidential election. Things are really hotting up. Guys, I'm not sure if you realize, but the company that was actually storing all of the voting information against the law has actually stored the server where all the information of the US election was kept, and it's clearly stated it cannot be outside the borders of the USA. They've actually arrested the CEO. I think the company is called Konech. They've arrested the CEO because the servers were in China. So, like I said, SCOTUS has already overturned the election, and that's why I think it's very unlikely that we're going to have the midterm elections. Why? Well, the midterm elections are totally captured, guys. I believe that they are going to try and do all the cheating again. And once GESARA is announced, like I said to you guys, GESARA is the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. There's a very clear timeline. Within 120 days, so the current government is dissolved immediately, and a new small group of really highly evolved spiritual people will step in for 120 days. And within 120 days, we need to run elections, guys, that are run with a quantum voting system where it is absolutely impossible to cheat, guys. Something else that's very interesting, guys, was, I don't know if you noticed, but PayPal put out a letter stating that if you made any right-wing claims and you made any false claims, conspiracy theories, which are actually conspiracy truths, they would take $2,500 out of your account for each incident. Well, wasn't it interesting how quickly they reversed that, but the damage is done, guys. I think PayPal is done. Everybody that I've spoken to is saying no way. They want nothing more to do with PayPal, right? Pfizer, guys, this is huge. Pfizer finally admits that the vaccine was never designed to stop the spread of COVID. Well, if it doesn't stop you getting COVID, it doesn't stop the spread of COVID. Why are we mandating a ridiculous jab that we've seen massive? Guys, I think we are going to be devastated when we actually find out, because the European Parliament was actually, the president of the European Parliament was actually standing up, and I was watching him chat today, and he was saying that the excess deaths are as high as 54% higher. On average, throughout Europe, it's about 16% higher than in 26. So they've worked from 2016 to 2019 as an average. What's really concerning, guys, is, or should I rather say, what's really a marker, an indicator of how bad these bioweapon jabs are, is all the countries with the highest vaccination rate are the countries with the highest excess mortality rate. So that's a definite indicator. We really got to start pushing hard, guys. We've got to stop. They cannot vaccinate children. In fact, they cannot. We cannot allow them to continue vaccinating people. These bioweapons are either killing, maiming, or really hurting people. It's got to be stopped, right? The European Parliament, guys, is actually asking questions about these COVID jabs and saying, why were they even necessary? One of the questions that's been asked is, if there's only 450 million people in the European Union, why did they order 4.5 billion doses? This is 2 years ago, guys. So it clearly shows that this whole COVID hoax, they planned to give each person a minimum of 10 jabs each. That is beyond ridiculous. These are experimental jabs that are unproven. Guys, I don't want to go down the route of germ theory, or the fact that germ theory is absolutely false and a lie, and that no such thing as viruses exist. I'll make a whole video on that separately. But just bear in mind, the PCR test does nothing but amplify. And if you amplify something enough times, you'll find anything. So we based an entire pandemic, an entire lockdown. We locked down the world. We cancelled people. We stopped them from seeing their parents. Dying children in hospital died alone. All of these things. We've closed businesses down. We've disrupted our lives, all based on a PCR test that measures nothing but can detect anything if you amplify it more than 28 cycles. They were measuring at 35 to 40 cycles. So every single PCR test was a false positive. It's mind-blowing, guys. The next thing, guys, is King Charles. And this is really huge. King Charles is dead. We know he's been dead for a couple of years already. He was executed for crimes against humanity. But this King Charles won't be around for very long. He's going to definitely be a fall guy. But one of the hugest things, guys, is this entire climate hoax. King Charles, like I'm putting that in inverted commas, King Charles has been forbidden from attending that ridiculous the climate conference. Bottom line is, humanity is winning. The light has won. We've got a few more tiny battles to win. And I believe, guys, very, very, very soon, all of this is going to start coming out in the public domain. But as you can imagine, guys, we've had years to get used to all of this information. We've had years to research it and understand it from all different perspectives. These poor people are going to have a couple of hours. Let's imagine there's an EBS, emergency broadcast system, where we have, and this is one of the things that people are talking about, is potentially we could have 3 8-hour videos that are played continually for, I think, between 3 and 10 days, just to bring people up to speed, to show people all the pedophilia, to show people all the crimes, to show people how all our governments were captured and how Big Pharma has acted against humanity, to show the crimes that have been committed against humanity, to show how these people have been cheating in elections for, I'm going to just say decades, but it's longer than that. To show all the criminality, the fraud, the fact that our currencies are all counterfeit, to show that the entire stock exchange is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. We are registered, or were registered, as corporations. Our countries were registered as corporations. So all of these things have got to be revealed. And that, guys, is why very soon we're going to have to step up. Those of us that have spent years, invested years into understanding all of this, we're going to have to step up very soon, and we are going to have to hold the hands of these people. We are going to enter a very traumatic period. Please, guys, I know these people have been horrible to us. I know these people have been abusive to us, but we really need to be the bigger person, and we really need to step up. When the time comes and all of this information comes out, we're really going to need to step up, and we're going to need to help people. But the bottom line is, guys, the light has won. We are so close to living that 1,000 years of peace that has been promised to all of us.